If, like me, you've been looking for something new to watch since Doctor Who got cancelled, I know. Even 2 years out, I still can't believe it, but that's where we are right now, so if you're in my situation, you might have come across this Doctor Who parody. So it's called Doctor Who, and regardless of what you may have heard about it, it is, hands down, the best Doctor Who parody since The Curse of... No, it might even be a bit better than The Curse of the Fatal Death. As good as that was, this is better. This has full-length episodes, and it's hilarious. It's available, I think, on Disney Plus if you're in the US, but we get it here on iPlayer. They have the Doctor as this... They have the Doctor as this flamboyantly... They have the Doctor as this flamboyantly gay refugee who, like, the guy who plays him is, like, really camping it up. He plays a gay guy really well. Cutie Gatwa, I think his name is. It's a silent N. I mean, he isn't, don't get me wrong. Like, he can actually be quite loud, really projecting his voice and emoting. Better than some of the actors on the actual show, because Whittaker was rubbish, remember her? Thankfully, she is nowhere to be seen, but they also got back a surprising amount of talent from the original. Murray Gold is doing the soundtrack, for Christ's sake, and they even managed to hire Russell T Davies, the creative brains behind Doctor Who in the early noughties, to parody his own show. Amazing. David Tennant and Catherine Tate also reprised their roles for the 60th anniversary send-off type thing, which turned out to be a backdoor pilot for this new show with Cutie Gatwa. No pun intended. Although I'd backdoor his pilot, if you know what I mean. Their parody of Rose is a girl named Ruby, whose backstory and personality is mostly the same as the original, only they changed it so that she's been adopted by a queer black woman of representation. She also lives with her grandmother, who is a disabled black woman of representation. Her best friend is a queer trans woman of representation. I've even heard rumors that Ruby herself is bisexual. Frankly, I'd be surprised if she wasn't. Each episode parodies a different aspect of the series, beginning with the church on Ruby Road, its title a reference to Ruby Rod from The Fifth Element.
Unbelievable! What you doing? Pop, pop, pop!
Other than introducing a Doctor who is a walking, talking homage to this guy, the episode also serves to parody Christmas specials. But, like, if it were made by Disney? And since Christmas is a time for family, the episode centers around Ruby's unconventional found family, which is a subtle joke about how Doctor Who will do anything but show a companion in an intact nuclear family. And of course, a black baby with a gay-as-fuck name is Ruby's new foster sister. I should mention as well that Ruby Sunday is a name you would give to a sex worker. So, the babe with the power of voodoo, is kidnapped by some goblins. These ones have neither the long noses nor green skin that is found on most goblin depictions, since they are made to look like anything but anti-Semitic caricatures. For the avoidance of doubt, they are not Jewish at all, they are goblins. Ruby pursues the Goblins' ship, and that's where she meets the Doctor, who she met a few days earlier, but that's not relevant to the plot, so I don't need to mention it. In a piss take of inspirational Doctor quotes, I suppose, the Doctor says this weak-ass line about how time travelers are great, because he thinks time travelers are great. And this ends up in all of the promotional material everywhere. Truly one for the ages. The Goblins then sing a Disney-esque musical number about the baby they're going to eat, before, in a verse that somewhat contradicts the first one, singing about how the Goblin King will be eating said baby. The Doctor and Ruby get her back by joining in the song, and just when it seems the episode has ended too soon, the Goblins go back in time and kidnap her as a baby instead. And in spite of how great he is, the Doctor arrives a few minutes late to stop them in his time machine. Baby Ruby is as good as dead at this point, but the Doctor has one last weapon up his sleeve, these gloves that give him super strength, which were established in one previous scene where he really didn't need super strength to climb this ladder. But he's not going to climb the ladder this time. he's going to do the Samson option, pulling the ship out of the sky and impaling it on a church spire, killing baby Ruby, but also slaying every last vile goblin that kidnapped her. To his surprise, the plan works better than expected as Ruby falls unharmed from the disintegrating ship, which disintegrates for some reason, by the way, and is not splattered to pieces when she lands in his arms. All in all, this episode was everything I could have wanted from a Doctor Who parody. I give it 5 unwanted babies out of 5. And speaking of unwanted babies, the next episode is a parody of Doctor Who episodes set in the future, and it's called Space Babies. Since this was marketed as the real start to the season, a lot of viewers will see these characters not knowing about their personalities that were established last episode. That, of course, being if the previous episode had given them personalities, which is debatable. What we do get, however, is a massive info dump about the lore. You know, 'cause new viewers love that. During which the Doctor mentions his home planet and Ruby asks,
Gallifrey? And where's that?
as if any possible answer he could give would mean something to her. The constellation of Kasterboros? Oh yes, I heard about that in astronomy class. It's like the writer couldn't think of any better way to bring up through dialogue that the Doctor's home planet was destroyed and he was adopted by a people who are now genocided, than as an answer to this question, which isn't even an answer to the question. Fucking hilarious. Then the dramatic stakes are lowered as much as possible when Ruby goes back to the time of the dinosaurs and steps on a butterfly, which destroys the entire human race and makes it so they never existed, only for the Doctor to restore it with a quick blow, thus allowing the Doctor to completely pull a superpower out of his arse, though not literally. That's coming later in the episode. The best part about this scene, besides it never being brought up again, is that it feels like a joke from Rick and Morty. To be fair, you have to have a very high IQ to understand Doctor Who. The humour is extremely subtle, and without a solid grasp of timey-wimey stuff, most of the jokes will go over a typical viewer's head. There's also the Doctor's optimistic outlook, which is definitely woven into his character. So then the Doctor takes Ruby to a dystopian baby farm, and has a fangirl reaction when he sees the artificial wombs. All jokes aside, there is a genuinely heartwarming moment when Ruby sees the planet from space, and realizes that humanity survives in the long term to colonize the stars. This is only slightly undercut when, out of nowhere, she asks the Doctor, "How do you keep going?" Thus prompting the Doctor to say that in addition to being stateless and living a life devoid of purpose, he's also unemployed, so yay? It's revealed shortly afterwards that Ruby is illiterate when she sees the words Pacifico del Rio and thinks that it's written in English. No, Ruby, none of those words is an English word. The planet's name is Italian for peaceful river. The Doctor then momentarily disables the TARDIS translator to show the Italian words are actually written in kanji, revealing this to be a future where the Axis powers eventually win. We then meet the eponymous babies, who look like they should have reached at least crawling age, but still use these motorized chairs to get around and do everything. Their ability to speak and operate machinery suggests they're even older, but not being able to walk or use the toilet unassisted allows them to fill out an entire season's quota for disabled representation. Maybe the Axis powers didn't win after all, especially since it's revealed in a later scene that the planet down there made it illegal to switch off the baby-making machine. You know, once it started and the babies are already half-made. Ruby, who's not just a closeted bisexual but a closeted eugenicist, despairs that it was not legally permissible to abort them. And despite the Doctor's reassurances to one of the babies that no one grows up wrong, his eventual plan for them, his answer to the space baby question, if you will, involves sending them not to the planet where their right to life is legally enshrined, but to a different world entirely, perhaps to one that practices eugenics. We may never know, but if it is, he'll probably just deny it. The rest of the episode has them confront an evil bogeyman, which is British for boogeyman. They deny this too, as Ruby claims the monster doesn't exist, despite having just seen it herself when the Doctor ran screaming from it like a sissy bitch. We later find out this is because the creature roars with a 17 Hz tone, the exact frequency that is supposed to make people scared despite being too low to hear. And if you show this video to the Doctor, he'll probably run screaming from this too, because I've been playing that tone for the last minute and a half. It's really not that scary. So, the story with the bogeyman eventually wraps up with the Doctor realizing it's made of actual bogies, and then realizing it's really no different from all the other dysgenic freaks on this station. I paraphrase, but that's essentially what he said. They have the same mother and father, which makes them siblings to boot. And even though he's not in the room when he says this, the babies all decide for themselves that they don't want it sucked out of the airlock, they accept the bogey monster as one of their own. Because Doctor Who has always been about accepting marginalized people, accepting our differences, even when one of you is a hideous creature made of human snot designed by an AI to scare children. And the Doctor's final realization of the episode is that all the dirty nappies, that's British for diapers, have released enough methane over the years to power the entire space station all the way to another planet. And when the methane comes out of the space station, it looks like two bum cheeks doing a giant fart. There are so many reasons why this doesn't make sense. It would take me an entire video to list them all, but it's a story about babies, and babies make a lot of poo. So do adults, now that I think about it. So why don't they do this in Doctor Who? Every time they power a spaceship, they can actually call it Doctor Poo. So, with that out of the way, I give Space Babies 4 poopy diapers out of 5. It was almost a perfect episode, let down only by the lack of a musical number. But the best part of Space Babies had to be when Gatwa read the title of his script by mistake, and no one bothered to correct him, so he just kept doing it every time he turned the page.
Space babies. 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 Oh, space babies. Space babies.
God bless the editor for leaving that in. The next episode, The Devil's Chord, is a parody of Doctor Who historicals. It has the high stakes of a season finale, but it's squeezed into 45 minutes and still padded out to fit the runtime, and besides, the last episode had humanity wiped out and restored just for a throwaway joke, so it's not as if any of this matters. The Doctor and Ruby have been travelling together for 6 months now, which skips a lot of their character development, but it wouldn't have made much of a difference anyway. This is seemingly the first time the Doctor asks Ruby when and where she wants to go, and seemingly the first time either one of them has suggested going in period dress. But their plans to watch the Beatles record their first album are scuppered when their song sounds like total shite. In this world, none of the music is good, people don't like it, and yet there's still a studio where people are paid to make more of it. This is a not-so-subtle metaphor for Doctor Who in the Chibnall era, because as it turns out, music has been stolen from the world by this episode's villain, Maestro, whose father is the celestial toymaker from a few episodes ago, and whose mother is the original character tag on Tumblr, and they're played by the iconic queer icon of iconicness, Jinx Monsoon, who has the unique talent for overacting every single line. We see in the pre-credits scene how they met and devoured the inventor of music, Dr. Jimothy Music, in 1925, before he could conduct his now famous spoon experiments. I mean, he uses the wrong pronoun, so in a way he has it coming, and he doesn't seem to care that a young boy was just erased from existence in front of him, but without him we never get the Beatles, and without them we never get the greatest piece of music of all time, the Sonic the Hedgehog soundtrack. soundtrack, which brought about the peaceful dissolution of the Soviet Union a mere 6 months after its release. Join the dots, people. It's all there in the novelization. Thus, the present day is a nuclear holocaust, and the Doctor must stop it, but not before running and hiding from the villain like a sissy little bitch. There is a joke about how the Doctor never does this, at least I think it's meant to be a joke, about how he's usually much braver, but that only ever seems to happen off-screen. The Doctor is probably well aware of this because he breaks the fourth wall on more than one occasion this episode. But all of this is just a fun romp where things don't have to make sense. Some musical hijinks ensue involving a piano on a rooftop and a song Ruby wrote for her best friend when a girl broke her heart. Probably after finding out she had a penis, and the Doctor brings Ruby back to the present day to survey the damage, which would raise the stakes considerably if it were in a different story. Ruby turns out to be the most important human being ever, just like every other companion, and then Maestro challenges the Doctor to a music fight with the literal god of music, which the Doctor somehow wins after finding the secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. The Beatles even assist him in the battle, Maestro is defeated, and music is restored to the world in 1963. Try not to think about what happens to the 30s, 40s, and 50s, because those aren't important decades for music. And then the Doctor says to Ruby with a wink at the camera that there's always a twist at the end. And then for no reason at all other than it would be funny, this turns into a musical number. There's always a twist at the end. Even though I don't think this episode had a twist ending other than the musical number itself, the entire cast just start dancing and singing for no reason. None of these characters would know what they're singing about, but who even cares? It's a parody. And then that little kid shows up again, the one who was too much of a pleb to appreciate Beethoven, but I won't hold that against him. I guess he didn't get deleted from existence. Maestro must have just teleported him. Without his clothes. Fucking kill me, that's the twist, isn't it? All in all, I give The Devil's Chord 5 Beatles out of 5. It was the perfect episode, except for everything. Just everything about it. With all that being said and done, I will see you in the next one. I don't know if I'm going to keep up this bit, but if the video gets super popular, I guess I'll just have to. Subscribe if you want to see that happen. And remember to love with one heart, hate with the other. Now go and watch Doctor Who on Disney Plus and BBC iPlayer and tell them Ed sent you, because frankly, this show could use all the help it can get.
I never slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.